The Marlins couldn't capitalize on a quality start from Eury Perez last night, managing just 2 hits in a shutout loss to the Twins. And now, some big roster decisions may be coming next.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Jamie Goldman, and welcome into another edition of Locked On Marlins. Locked On, now the #1 sports podcast network. On today's show, I'll preview the Marlins matchup with the Twins tonight as Max Meyer gets set to take the mound for the Fish. Plus, Pete Fairbanks is nearing his return, so we'll dive into what that means for the roster. We'll also discuss Christopher Morel's struggles and if it's time to have a conversation about him. But we start today with the Marlins loss from last night, a night that the Marlins would like to forget, a night that the offense just couldn't get anything going in the entire ball game. Only 2 hits in the entire game. The Fish lose 3-0 against the Twins. The Marlins get Maddoxed as well, as it took only 89 pitches from Bailey Ober to put away the Marlins last night. The Fish 2 hits on the ball game, one of which was a Jacob Marcy bunt single. So the Marlins really had nothing going on offense last night whatsoever. No walks in the ball game as well. So just a complete sputter of a night in Minnesota for the Fish. They'd hopefully like to put that one behind them and keep moving forward tonight, because they were coming off of what was a pretty good series against Washington back home in Miami. They got a day off traveling to Minnesota, and it looks like the Bats took an extra day off because yesterday it was nothing doing on the offensive side of things. And what's really disappointing is you couldn't capitalize on what was a quality start from Eury Perez. Perez gives you a strong 6 innings, only 3 earned runs, only 3 hits in the ball game. The Twins didn't get their first hit of the game until the 5th inning, so Perez was really cruising along, and the offense just couldn't get anything going for him to kind of help him out and give him some insurance. Absolutely nothing doing for the Marlins offense yesterday. And as I just kind of mentioned, I touched on a little bit, the Marlins, Eury Perez didn't give up a hit until that 5th inning. So I want to discuss that 5th inning because that was the sole location of all the runs in the ball game came in that bottom of the 5th inning yesterday night, and they all came with 2 outs. So Perez continued on his strong start last night, cruised through the first 2 batters in the 5th, 2 up, 2 down in the 5th inning, and it looked like Perez was ready to get out of that inning as he had Byron Buxton at a 3-2 count. So all he needed was one more strike to put away the Twins in the 5th and get the Fish to the 6th, still scoreless at a 0-0 ball game. But it was a 3-2 count. Perez's pitch was close. They ruled it a ball. You take a look at the replay. That thing was in the strike zone. Joe Mack did not challenge behind the dish. So Buxton walks at the time. It just seems as if it's, a 2-out walk, hopefully not going to come back and bite you. But I think Eury really let that kind of rattle him yesterday, because after that 2-out walk, which came on a 3-2 count, a questionable call on ball 4, Eury didn't look too happy about it. Buxton gets on, and Buxton is a very dangerous player. He's a guy that has a ton of speed on the base paths, and that speed came back to bite the Marlins yesterday in the 5th. So he gets on with the questionable walk, and then Trevor Larnach comes up to the plate. He rips a single on a play where Buxton was stealing. And I mentioned that because I don't think he gets on base. He doesn't get that single if it's not for Buxton stealing. Buxton stole, and it brought Lopez from short over to second to try to, get the throw out at second base. And that's exactly where Larnach hit his base hit was right down that shortstop spot on the infield. So a really good play from the Twins, aggressively base running, kind of putting on a little bit of a hit and run, putting that ball in the perfect position through the infield, and it reached for a base hit. Buxton thought about coming home to score on that play, but he ended up staying at third. So he had first and third with 2 outs after the Larnach single, which still 2 outs in the inning, something Eury could have gotten out of. But then more aggressive base running from the Twins came back to bite the Marlins, and Larnach went to steal second. The throw came into second. Then Larnach gets himself into a rundown long enough for Buxton to then come home. The Marlins threw home, trying to get Buxton at the plate. Buxton safe at the plate. Larnach safe at second. A complete disaster and mistake from the Marlins on that play. Obviously, looking back at it, hindsight is 2020. You got to get an out on that play, because in the moment, I completely understand the decision to throw home and try to get Buxton out at the plate. It's a 0-0 ball game. You're trying to keep the game scoreless. You're trying to get to the 6th inning and out of the inning. However, they weren't able to get the speedy Buxton at the plate, so that resulted in the Twins getting the lead, getting the first run of the ball game, and it also resulted in Larnach being safe at second base. So you don't get out of the inning there whatsoever. I can sit here and say you should have continued with the rundown and got Larnach out, get out of that inning, get him out in the pickle, because he was dead to rights, Larnach was, if you continue to kind of, run him down in the pickle between first and second. But if you continue to do that, that also allows Buxton a guaranteed run, because Larnach would be able to kind of stay in the rundown long enough for Buxton to then come home and score. There wouldn't have been a question on that. So I understand the decision in a split decision where you got to make that call in the moment to throw home and try to save the run. It didn't work out, as Buxton was able to be safe. It was a close play at the plate, so it was really bang, bang in the moment, but Buxton was safe at the plate, and then Marlins were on the short end of the stick on that one, with Larnach being safe at second. And then that's when I said Eury looked rattled. He continued to get rattled after the bad ball 4 with Buxton. That started this whole thing. Then you have Buxton steal, and what would have been a ground out to end the inning. Lopez is over at second base covering for the steal. That ball is able to shoot through the infield and get a base hit. Now you have runners on first and third. Then there's the whole rundown debacle where you throw home and try to get Buxton. You don't. First run comes on the board. Eury is clearly rattled after this whole scenario goes down. A couple of events where, in Eury's mind, he should be out of this inning a couple of minutes ago, a couple of batters ago. And now he's already let a run come across. He has a runner in scoring position, and he has to face one of the Twins' best batters in Ryan Jeffers. And his rattledness continued to show as Ryan Jeffers then immediately pipes a 2-run home run, which gave the Twins some insurance in that 6th inning, gave the Twins a 3-0 lead. And that's the entirety of the offense in the ball game for either team came right in that 5th inning on the events that I just spoke about. So really just a 3-batter kind of domino effect for Eury Perez yesterday. And that was the whole kit and caboodle of why the Marlins couldn't get the win yesterday. The Fish drop 3-0 to the Twins. This was the 4th time this season the Marlins have been shut out this year. And this is the 3rd time this year the Marlins have been shut out with 3 or fewer hits. So, this is going to happen with this Marlins team. There's going to be days where the offense sputters. It happened in the Detroit Tigers series on the road. It happened at home in one of the games against Cincinnati. Couldn't capitalize on a good Jansen Junk start in that one. Couldn't capitalize on a good Eury Perez start in this one. So the Marlins drop to 19-23. The Twins improve to 19-23. And bottom line, you got to have better execution at the plate. You're not going to win any games with no runs. You're not going to win any games with only 2 hits. Very rare to see that kind of occurrence happening. And we saw that happen with the Marlins last night. Good news is this is baseball. you shake that one off from last night. You get another opportunity to go and get it done tonight. But the road trip gets off to a rough start for the Marlins with only 2 hits in that first game. I don't want to attribute it to the cold, but I will say the Fish had trouble hitting in Detroit, and they had trouble hitting in Minnesota last night as well. It's getting to be May. The cold months are going to be behind us, but just something to point out, something I kind of popped into my brain thinking about facing a team up north. The Fish dropped game 1 of the series to the Twins, and not much doing on the offensive side of the ball. Speaking of bad offense, coming up, we're going to get into Christopher Morel's struggles, and if it's time to have a conversation about his roster spot on the Major League team. And speaking of roster spots on the Major League team, Marlins closer Pete Fairbanks is making his return soon, so I will discuss what that return means for the bullpen, for the Marlins roster. So we'll dive into all of that coming up right after this. Baseball season is here, and now you can trade every game on Kalshi. On Kalshi, you can trade every single game. For tonight's Marlins-Twins game, the Marlins have a 54% probability to win, according to Kalshi Prediction Market. So if you make a $100 trade and the Marlins get the job done tonight, that's a $186 payout. On Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house, and as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use code LOCKEDON to get $10 when you trade 10. K-A-L-S-H-I. Kalshi. That's K-A-L-S-H-I. Kalshi. Trade on anything. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contracts trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For those more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. Baseball is back, and to celebrate, I'm giving you a full month of the Everydayer Club for free. Go to lockedonmarlins.supercast.com and use code FINALLY. You'll unlock every episode ad-free and get access to our private listener group chat. Tap the link in the show notes and use code FINALLY to claim your free month. Now, I want to get into the Christopher Morel struggles because they have been at the forefront of this Marlins team thus far. Morel, kind of similar to Chris Paddack, was brought in as a veteran. Paddack got $4 million. We've already seen the Marlins move off from him. Morel only got half of that, getting a $2 million one-year deal this offseason. And he was brought in to play first, and we've had some shakeups at first base already. Already 7 Marlins have played first, but as things stand right now, Liam Hicks and Connor Norby seem to have things under control at first base. They've been playing well defensively, and both of their bats have been significantly better than Christopher Morel's, especially Liam Hicks. Hicks has been one of the best bats in the league so far this season, so I don't see the Marlins moving on from him anytime soon. And as for Norby, still batting in the 230s, so not excellent, but he has had a couple of home runs. He's had a couple of really good moments for this Marlins team so far, and he's doing a better job defensively than Morel has this season. Morel, his struggles at the plate have been ongoing since spring training. I believe he only has 1 extra base hit, so really having a hard time is Christopher Morel, and it's really piling up as of late. In his last 5 starts with the Marlins, he has managed only 1 hit in those 5 starts, and he has 7 strikeouts as well. He struck out 7 times. This was a guy that was brought in to help stabilize first base, but that doesn't really seem to be that big of an issue for the Marlins right now with the way Hicks has been swinging the bat, with the way Norby has been playing defensively. You have Griffin Conine nearing a return as well. He should come back maybe by the end of this month, if not most likely in early June. So Conine is on the mend. He is progressing well from his injury. You have guys like Kyle Stowers who can slot in at first base. Heriberto Hernandez is another guy in this system who can play first base. And to take a look down at the farm, there's a player that's playing on the infield, Kemp Alderman, who's been hitting really well and playing really good baseball. So far this season in AAA, Alderman batting .284 with 7 home runs. That's significantly better than we've seen from Christopher Morel at any stage, at whether it's in AAA and kind of in his rehab assignments, whether it's up here in the majors, or even this spring in spring training with the Marlins. Christopher Morel really hasn't been able to get off the ground and hasn't really been able to get things going for this Marlins offense. So definitely something to watch as this road trip continues, as this young season continues for the Marlins, because they have shown that they have no hesitation moving off of a veteran who is struggling. We saw it with Chris Paddock already. We saw it with Agustin Ramirez getting sent down for Joe Mack. They've brought up Robbie Snelling already. So the Marlins have been really aggressive in the way that they send down, call up players. And the way Alderman's been playing in AAA, the way Morel has struggled up in the majors, really kind of it's forcing the conversation a little bit. If this struggle continues for Morel, Alderman continues to play well, we don't see any real shakeups between Norby and Hicks over at first, no injuries on the rest of the roster. This could be something we see here in the coming days, coming weeks for this Marlins team if Morel isn't able to get it going. And before we take a break, I want to get into Pete Fairbanks returning to this Marlins roster. He has had an interesting start to the year for the Fish this year. His ERA is 10, double digits. That's the last thing you want to hear from your $13 million man, the closer that you went out and got to shore up the end of this bullpen. But it's been a lot of off-the-field stuff going on for Fairbanks this season as well. Early in the season, he got put on paternity list after his kind of weird start in a game that he made against the Yankees, a game that he probably should have never been in. That was one game he really struggled with. I think it was 3 earned runs in the first inning of that ball game. So that made the ERA balloon a little bit. And then he comes back from paternity list, and his first game back from paternity list after missing about a week or so of baseball, they put him in the 8th inning against the Atlanta Braves in a very tight ball game. And he unravels in that game. So another kind of interesting, not traditional closing situation. Yes, he was put in to close that game against the Braves and get a save, but coming into the 8th rather than the 9th on his first appearance in over a week, a little bit, unconventional. So that may have had something to do with it. And then he mixes in a couple of decent outings, gets a couple of saves, and then gets hurt again after unraveling in his most recent outing, a game that he got injured in, a game that he blew a save in, and we haven't seen him since. So now he is making his return to the Marlins on this road trip. They haven't announced officially when he'll be back. However, they say he is traveling with the team and is expected to be reinstated soon. So that begs the question, who gets sent down? So Josh Eknes was brought up in Fairbanks' place. He's a youngster, only 24 years old, but Eknes has looked really solid since being called up. Small sample size, but he's looked really good. 4 1/3 innings of work. He's only allowed 2 hits, only 1 earned run, and he has 3 strikeouts. So Eknes has looked really solid since coming up. There's no easy guy to send down. There's no one on this Marlins bullpen that's really been struggling up to this point, and that really speaks to how solid this Marlins bullpen has been. But a couple of candidates, I would say, would be Andrew Nardi or Anthony Bender, who really struggled at the beginning of the season. But in their last couple of outings, both of them have been pretty good. So kind of tough to move off of one of those guys when they've been starting to turn the corner as well. These are your veterans that you kind of want to instill confidence in. So you don't really feel that comfortable sending a guy like that down. And the final name I'll mention here is Michael Peterson, who was really strong up until his most recent outing. He allowed 4 earned runs on 3 hits in his last outing against the Nationals. That ballooned his ERA up to 4.80 But on the season total body of work, Michael Peterson has been really strong for this Marlins roster, and I can't see them sending down anyone else. Bacher has been strong. Phillips and King have been the two MVPs of this bullpen so far. So barring an injury, I don't see them going down for any reason. So I think it really comes down to Eknes or maybe Peterson if they're really aggressive on the what have you been doing for me lately type of approach. If I had to guess, I would say it'd probably be Josh Eknes just because he's a youngster, just because they weren't planning on him being up for this long. But I could see it being Peterson. I could see it being Bender or Nardi as well. So I'm going to do something we haven't really done much here. I want you to let me know who you want to be sent down for Fairbanks coming back over those four names that I just mentioned. Eknes, Nardi, Bender, Peterson. Let me know Fairbanks is coming back, who gets the boot and who gets sent down. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on that. So coming up after this one, I want to preview tonight's matchup between the Marlins and the Twins. Max Meyer gets set to go for the Marlins, and it may be a good sign for the Marlins coming off of a really rough game offensively with who they're facing on the other side, who's starting for the Twins. So I'll reveal that when we come back right after this quick message. If you've ever opened your bank account and thought, where did all my money go? You're not alone. Keeping track of subscriptions, spending, and bills can get overwhelming fast. That's where Rocket Money comes in, helping you take control of your finances all in one place. So, how does Rocket Money help you keep track of your finances? It tracks all of your subscriptions in one spot and can help you cancel the ones that you don't need with just a few taps. It automatically categorizes your spending so you can actually see where your money is going. And you can set budgets, get alerts, and stay on top of upcoming bills. It just makes everything feel more organized and gives you a clear picture of your finances from day to day. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel unwanted subscriptions. It monitors your spending and it helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/locked-on. That's rocketmoney.com/locked-on. Welcome back in, and to get the final segment starting, I want to preview tonight's ball game between the Marlins and the Twins, a game that the Marlins really need to bounce back after mustering only 2 hits in the loss last night. No runs came across for the Fish last night. This is an important game coming off of a shutout loss, needing to bounce back. But we're going to start here with the other side of the ball, with Max Meyer getting the bump for the Fish tonight. Max Meyer, I'm gonna say something that may be a little controversial, but I think up to this point, Max Meyer has been the best starter on this Marlins roster. Yes, I said it. Better than Perez, better than Sandy. Sandy and Perez have both been pretty solid. Junk's been pretty good as well. But what Max Meyer has done, I think you cannot overlook what he has been able to do for this Marlins team so far. He has really stepped into that number 3 role and flourished on this Marlins starting pitching rotation. He's got 8 games started so far this season, a 2.79 ERA, and 45 strikeouts in just 42 innings. His whip, just above 1, under 1.1. So he's doing a really good job keeping guys off the base paths, and he's piled together a couple of good starts in a row. His last start against the Orioles, maybe not his absolute best work, but if this is a shaky start from Max Meyer, I think we're on the right track. His last start versus the Orioles, he gave you 5 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, and that was looked at as kind of a meh start for Max Meyer. So if a game where he's giving you 5 innings and only 2 earned runs, 5 strikeouts, putting you in a position where you're going into the 6th inning, you've only allowed 2 runs, and you've only burned through 1 pitcher, I think most Marlins fans would sign up for that being a mediocre start for Max Meyer. This season, we've seen him really get away from the big inning. We haven't seen that trouble happen too much this season. We've seen him go later into ball games. Max Meyer has really stepped up so far this season. his start before that one against the Orioles was probably his best start of the season, maybe even his best start of his career. And in 2 starts ago against the Phillies, he went 7 innings pitched, only 1 hit allowed. He had 7 strikeouts in the ballgame and no earned runs. So all of his stuff was clicking at home in 2 starts ago against the Phillies. He's been able to compile some good starts in a row, and he looks to build off that against the Twins here tonight. This will be Max Meyer's first time ever facing the Minnesota Twins, and he gets someone on the other side who has not been up to par for this Minnesota Twins team thus far. Going for the Twins tonight is Simeon Woods Richardson, who has really struggled for the Twins thus far this season. He's made 8 starts. His ERA is 6.92, so nearing 7 on the ERA. And he has the most earned runs allowed in Major League Baseball so far this season with 30. So this guy has allowed runs so far this season, something the Marlins really need after the way they were blanked last night. So 30 earned runs, most allowed in the majors, 16 walks in only 39 innings. So the walks haven't really been too much of a problem for Woods Richardson, but this guy has really not been able to get it going so far this season. In his previous 3 starts, so really looking to examine his what have you been doing for me lately in this league, he's gone 3 straight starts without making it out of the 5th inning. The most he's gone was 4 1/3 in his last 3 starts. So he's really struggled to go deep into ball games, and he's allowed at least 4 earned runs in each of those 3 starts. So not going deep into ball games and allowing a lot of hits, a lot of runs. Hasn't really been an issue with walks, but the Marlins hopefully can get the bats heated up tonight, because what we saw last night was the frozen tundra of bats. Nothing going on whatsoever. A complete wasteland on the offensive side of the ball last night. As I have harped on the entire show, you're probably getting tired of me saying it. Only 2 hits for the Fish last night, and one of them was a bunt single from Jacob Marcy. And one thing I will talk about from last night's ball game, Marcy had a hit and Stowers had a hit. So that's, if anything, promising from last night's ball game. 2 guys that have kind of been on the struggle bus a little bit, finding ways to get hits, and if anything, seeing that batting average increase a little bit, because those 2 have had some pretty rough batting averages so far this season. Stowers gets a hit last night. Marcy gets a hit last night. And on the injury front, we talked a little bit about Pete Fairbanks. Owen Casey seems to be making his return as well, as he left the Marlins last game of the homestand with an injury, so he'll be coming back as well. He's good to go. So that's pretty much going to do it for my show today. The Marlins face off against the Twins tonight on this road trip. 6 games road trip for the Marlins right now. Also in the midst of 16 straight days with a ball game. The Fish will wrap things up with the Twins tomorrow. So tonight, game 2, tomorrow, game 3. They'll head to Tampa Bay this weekend for a 3-game set with the Rays. I'll be boots on the ground for that one, as I'll be in attendance for Friday night's ball game in Tampa. I'm going up this weekend to see a buddy up there. I'm looking forward to it. And not only will I be at Friday's ball game, but I believe my partner Ethan Ibe will be at Sunday's ball game. So we got you covered this weekend in Tampa Bay when the Marlins face the Rays. And one more thing that I want to leave you on, yesterday's Ibe's Eye, if you missed it, centers around Max Meyer. And my partner had some bold predictions for the Marlins starting pitcher tonight. He said Max Meyer, for the first time this season, will go double digits in strikeouts with 10. So we'll keep an eye on if Max can get that done tonight. He also said he'd go 7 innings. So Ethan Ibe with some high expectations for Max Meyer tonight, and I'm all for it. Max Meyer, get it going tonight. Keep buzzing on what has been a very solid season for Meyer so far. So Meyer versus Woods Richardson tonight in Minnesota, game 2 of the Marlins and Twins series. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to today's episode of Locked On Marlins. I'll be back with you tomorrow to give you all the news and analysis from Game 2 tonight, as well as get you ready for the series finale. So make sure to subscribe and follow Locked On Marlins so you get all our latest episodes. You can find myself on Twitter, on TikTok, Jamie Goldman 66. You can find us at LO_Marlins on all platforms. So check us out on social media. And if you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Marlins ad-free plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedonmarlins.supercast.com to join the club. And for those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. And for those of you on audio, for your second listen, go check out Locked On MLB. And one more kind of plug here. If you want to know what's going on with the farm and maybe some potential guys that'll be called up to this Marlins roster, my partner Ethan and I did a really good job of kind of breaking down what's going on the farm on his episode yesterday. If you check that out, I believe it was the middle segment of yesterday's show. He had some really good stuff to say about some of the guys down on the farm. So if you're interested and you're a AAA minor league nut like I am, that'll be a good kind of recap for you. So check that one out. That's going to do it for me today. Have a good day, everybody, and go Marlins.